everything that they did at a certain point, the trade deadline, was about being ready for the playoffs. They are, without a doubt, as well positioned, I think, as you could be for a team going into the playoffs.
Let's ask Kevin Acee. He's ready for us. We'll bring him in. We can ask because he knows everything Padres.
Okay. So, Kevin, let's ask you about this first. I mean, I'm watching yesterday's game, and I'm like, why the heck would the Padres want to win this game? I know they want to win every game, but not this one. So, welcome, Kevin Acee from the San Diego Union Tribune. How you doing? How'd you like the rant?
I actually loved it. I wish you would keep going, Scott. Yes, here's what I'll say. As you guys know, the guys on the field are trying to win. In no way did they field their best lineup. They didn't field their best lineup Saturday, and I don't know if the Diamondbacks were feeling it or what, but they beat them 5-0 on Saturday, of course, with 5 ninth-inning runs. Nobody scored for 8 innings. So yes, without a doubt. Look, Martin Perez has been fantastic since he came over, and when he give up 4 runs in the 4th inning, and then Matt Waldron came in. Matt Waldron, they were giving him a chance to pitch after he did really well for him in the middle of the year. But of course, look, Randy Vasquez started Saturday. They're resting their guys. They wanted these teams to play today, and yeah, I get the argument.
All right, wait. You're saying that the Padres are resting players? Because we're gonna have. I mean, I want to hear it from you, Kevin, that the Padres are resting players, because there's going to be the argument that if a team that is rested and doesn't have to play in the wild card, but yet the teams that are playing in the wild card are resting their players, are they trying to lose, Kevin? I'm not sure their tactics here.
Well, I didn't happen to look around because I just sort of assumed it, but I assumed that teams that didn't have to win after the Padres clinched on Friday, I assumed that those teams rested some players. The Padres had 3 or 4 regulars in on Saturday, 3 or 4 regulars in on Sunday. But yeah, Fernando Tatis Jr. didn't play yesterday, or he was the designated hitter yesterday. Manny Machado didn't play. Xander Bogaerts didn't play. They played the day before. I got to think like Luis Ariz played. He was trying to get his 200th hit. Then he came out. I thought it was the absolute right thing to do.
All right, before we get to the Padres, were you at the game yesterday in Arizona?
Yes, I was.
Okay. How much of a deep breath did your hair blow back when I think it was Eugenio Suarez hit the first homer to put them up by a little bit? Was that stadium as tight as it looked on TV from a Diamondbacks fan standpoint? I know the Padres, they were hanging all over the dugout. They were loving life. They had their hoodies up.
I hate to, from afar, judge how a team feels, right? Because it can look a certain way, but it is about as close as you could come to being like looking in that dugout and thinking, wow, this team is tight. This team is stressed. This team really needs a little something to happen. So yes, without a doubt, like you started to think as Padres were up 1-0, you started to think, is this really going to happen? Is this team going to have to live with this all winter? And they still may have to. It was a bad finish by the Diamondbacks after a fantastic second half, but it was pretty amazing.
Okay, so let's get to the Padres. Do you think this is a World Series contender? Do you think this team is as built as it's been in a while to be able to get through a difficult tournament against what looks like a very challenging National League field? I mean, people were saying, oh, there's no powerhouses this year. There weren't any 100-win teams. I'm like, that's because the NL is really good at the top. And I think a lot of these teams were actually built for a postseason even more than a regular season. And the Padres are a good example.
I think that's all great points. I don't know the first part of your question, I don't know if they're a World Series team. I've been going back and forth on this and trying to explain to people. I think when teams win the World Series, they're able to look back and go, man, see how special we were? And along the way, you don't really know. But to your everything else, yes, the Padres, and I think obviously the Phillies, I think the Brewers, the Dodgers, look, just got done watching them after all season. They hadn't played them for 2 months from afar and talking to people, hearing about all their inefficiencies. That team could score 24 runs a game. So now I know in the postseason, that's not what you're counting on, but that's a pretty darn good team. But the Padres, this is obviously AJ Preller, and this is his 10th season, but really his 5th year of not rebuilding. This is by far the deepest, so you could say best team that he's built. Everything that they did to at a certain point, the trade deadline was about being ready for the playoffs, having the kind of team that can navigate that, being careful with Joe Musgrove when he came back so that he was healthy and peaking now, getting Hugh Darvish back, huge break. And so they are without a doubt as well positioned, I think, as you could be for a team going into the playoffs.
Yeah, so having a stacked, complete team with a deep lineup with all the right pieces is very important. But I feel like in the past, last year they had some good pieces, some guys. You had Soto, you had all these pieces. But what is more important is to be able to get the players to play together as a team, as a unit. How do you think they went about to have the right culture to have everyone buying in to now? I mean, they're playing like as a unit now. And what was the switch that you felt that was made to be able to achieve that?
Well, it was so intentional by Mike Schilt came in. That's his favorite word, together, or any variation of it. Togetherness, unity, alignment. These are Mike Schilt catchphrases. And I don't think that it can be stressed enough how much Mike Schilt was intentional about that, from traveling around the country, seeing players after he got the job, from spring training. Then I want to say, because players play, that credit to the guys who were here and the guys who came in, like Jurickson Profar, Luis Ariz, but credit to the guys who were here, Joe Musgrove, Manny Machado, Jake Cronenworth, Xander Bogaerts, Fernando Tatis Jr., for not only buying in, but then taking the ownership of that, kind of changing the leadership structure, guys stepping up, changing the way they did some things, and making it really important to them that they did play together. I have to tell you, you become cynical when you cover a team or teams year after year, and you hear the same cliches and you hear the same things about passing the baton, about how this is the greatest group I've ever been around. This team has fulfilled every cliche. They are the personification of all the baseball cliches. So when you ask, about the specialness of, or is this the team for the World Series? I don't know, but I fully know that if they were to win it, I would look back and go, yep, this was storybook, because that is what they've done. The turnaround from the drama of last year, the toxicity, and some of that obviously came down from the top. You had AJ Preller, Bob Melvin, that had their issues, but to what is this year is, it's incredible, the turnaround. So that is probably, and I know they would say that, certainly talent. Look, Manny Machado, Jackson Merrill, through the summer, carried this team. And I don't want to, it's a team, but look at the stats and look at the big hits by those two guys. You have to have talent. But the togetherness of this team, it's not a joke. It's not a cliche. And that's a guy who, I waited 2, 3, 4 months of watching it and kind of inwardly rolling my eyes and going, And then there's just no doubt that that's what this team's about.
We get it. Mornings are nuts. No time for breakfast, but you need to get your day started right.
What if a delicious, nutritious meal could be ready in seconds? Support for Foul Territory is brought to you by Huel, the world's #1 complete nutrition brand. With over 400 million meals sold worldwide, Huel is trusted by millions of people looking to fuel their days with convenient, complete nutrition. Try it for yourself with this exclusive FT offer. 15% off with the code FOUL at Huel.com. We're all about saving time, but we get hangry, a lot. I recently fell in love with the Huel Ultimate Super Greens Powder, which is a perfect blend of 91 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients. I also love their complete nutrition bars, and those hot and savory pouches are fire too.
FT fam, give it a shot. Get 15% off with the code FOUL at HUEL.com. Unlock a healthier, easier way to eat with Huel. Nutritionally complete meals in minutes so you can focus on what really matters.
You talked about guys that they brought in. Dylan Cease and Ariz, I think, were the two people that you said. Kyle Higashioka has a higher WAR, according to Baseball Reference, than Luis Ariz. So why do people keep leaving my best friend in baseball off of the list of people that got brought in, because I'm also bookending this with a question. Is he going to catch every game? How is the catching position going to pan out with Camposano not in there right now? And Elias Diaz really barely has been with the team that much.
Right. Diaz, so if you get to the playoffs, he'll catch Cease as he has been, and then Kyle would have everybody else, presumably. Diaz been hitting the ball hard. Kyle, very good for Kyle. Got his first home run since, I believe it was August 28th on Saturday. He started that big ninth inning in that meaningless game that they weren't trying to win. I did leave him out. If you want to talk about a month and a half, almost 2 months of a guy who had exactly one home run every 10 at-bats over the span of 150 at-bats. Kyle Higashioka had some big hits, and talking about a guy who was batting 8th and 9th and just pulling home runs down the left field line. They're going to rename it the Higashioka porch down there. Yes, I'm telling you, he is emblematic to. Look, they brought in Donovan Solano. David Peralta filled in with a 300 batting average and I want to say 850 OPS while filling in for Fernando Tatis Jr. But Kyle Higashioka is emblematic of the moves that AJ Preller made that, it was everything he touched turned to gold, which was great since the payroll is about 95 million less or 90 million less than it was last year.
Yeah, that's something that I felt like is important because, you have your superstars and you have the guy, and you got to have the role players. And it seems like this year with the Padres, I've played with Solano when he was with the Marlins, and he just seemed to be steady Eddie, and guys would go up and down and he was pretty steady. And you need people like that in the lineup to be able to make long runs and postseason runs. But I want to ask you this question. Out of the teams that are playing today, who do you think is a better fit and matchup for San Diego?
Man, the Phillies owned them this year. And so the teams that are playing today, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, and I don't want to do that because, Braves, gosh darn it.
One game at a time. They're
going to come in here and be so tired. I have not looked to see what the Braves are going to do today. The Mets, and I don't know how. The Mets owned them this year. So I don't know exactly how. I don't know how the Mets were so incredibly hot for so long either. But the Braves with that pitching, pretty tough, even though the Padres over the course of the last 2-3 years have played the Braves very well. But I would not want to face the Braves pitching. But I have not I just woke up. Let's be honest. I just got back. I just woke up. I don't know what time it is where
That's
you
fine.
are. But, it's 11 o'clock in the morning here. It's crack at dawn. But the Braves pitching seems a little scary.
Especially for a West Coast baseball writer. Yeah, and you were in Arizona. All right, so I'm going to give you two that I know you can cover, okay, that you're well-researched on. One is the loss of Kim for this team. He's been out for a while, but now, we found out, a few days ago, that he was undergoing surgery, and this is probably the end of the road for him with SD unless he, returns on a free agent contract. So how will this loss hit them in the playoffs? And do you think that he is probably gone? He was looking at, I would say, a pretty big offseason contract as a free agent. He's kind of like a sabermetric darling, isn't he?
Yeah, it was a down year offensively, right? He was and I still think there's a lot of value, probably as your guy who can play every position in the infield, and he does have some pop, but it's a really down year defensively. Had a mutual option, which those I never thought that he was coming back or without there being a redone deal. And now it's kind of the Padres got to fit everybody in, and they're going to go at these payrolls. They're not going back to Peter Seidler payrolls. I think that Kim is most likely gone. But look, Xander Bogaerts moved over to shortstop. That was the position that he played for his entire career. He has had a few struggles. He's had to work really hard to after working really hard to become a second baseman, he's now back at shortstop, making sure that he's, working before games. It's been kind of a plight for Xander, but I think last week, starting to feel very comfortable, both defensively and then how that's affected him offensively. Again, Kim he's incredibly popular in the clubhouse, incredibly popular with the fans, really good defender. but this was not a real big year where you're like, man, what would the Padres have done without Ha-Seong Kim? Because they've been just fine.
We would be remiss if we went this whole time and didn't ask at least one question about this bullpen, this vaunted bullpen that got better at the trade deadline. Are we going to see a playoffs where a Dylan Cease is throwing and they go in the 5th inning to this vaunted bullpen? Or are we going back to the 90s and maybe the 80s where Dylan Cease has a chance to throw 7 innings?
Man, that's a really good question, and I've thought about it because the way that the rotation has been going, the top guys in the rotation have been going, that's like about as best case scenario as you can have. If it's in the last couple of days, I haven't checked, but it's been the best rotation or up there with the Mets, the Blue Jays, I think, in September. So I don't know what the answer to that question is because Mike has kind of done it both ways. Mike Schilt has managed as aggressively as any manager I've covered all year, be it the way that he used Robert Suarez for 4 outs or covering like 10 4-run leads in the 9th inning, especially since the trade deadline, which coincided with them having like a close game every night, be it that he would pitch Robert in the 8th, sometimes earlier in the year. Tanner Scott, this comes in and he's pitching the 8th and the 9th, coming in the 6th to face a lefty. Jason Adam, Jeremiah Estrada, 25-year-old kid, with throws almost 100, has a pretty, when it's working, pretty wicked split. He's been working the 6th, the 7th. Adrian Morejon, they've got 5 guys they will lean on, and they have leaned on for more than a month. And I can see it going both ways, and it'll be by the situation. But man, that is one of the really interesting questions as you get into the strategic nature of the playoffs. And right now, their starting rotation is the strength of their team. Let's be honest about what Robert Suarez has done lately. There was a point, I think it's now he's converted 5 of his last save opportunities. He's working on a different pitch mix. And after throwing like basically 98% fastball, 4-seam fastballs for a while. And Tanner Scott hasn't had very many clean innings. I know that's how relievers go sometimes, but there is, I think, going into the playoffs, considering that was supposed to be like their strength, there is some concern about the bullpen. But like I said many times, I feel like they're really well set up.
All right, last one here. Your quick, instant reaction. I know you said you just woke up, so maybe you didn't see Buster Posey is now president of baseball operations for the San Francisco Giants. You're in this division all the time. You've seen San Francisco. What's your quick, instant reaction?
Well, I did get an email on that, and I was like, whoa. I mean, you kind of saw, I guess, from afar the signs coming, his involvement. The guy's a winner. I mean, I love it. I love it. I have no idea how it's going to go, but I'm like, yeah, like right on.
There you go. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, obviously this team had a super disappointing season. The Giants, they thought they were going to do a lot more, and they were on the outside looking in, and it wasn't even really close, right? They were playing kind of meaningless ball over the past month or so, from what we've seen here. You
had to do something, and all I don't know Buster Posey. What I know about him is he's a winner, and he doesn't do things lightly, and he cares about the Giants, and they've had a pretty good R&D department there, and they do things right. I think they're set up for success in that way.
Yeah, they got to try something else, right, with the leader. Kevin, awesome to have you on. Enjoy the series, whoever they end up playing, and everyone give them a follow at SDUT, Kevin Acee, Acee spelled A-C-E-E, Padres beat writer for the San Diego Union Tribune. Thanks, Kevin. Great catching up.
Hey, thank you guys very much.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.